In this episode, we're taking a very hard look at the machinery of power in America, from Los Angeles trying to unmask federal agents operating in neighborhoods, to a parking garage bomb scare that turned into a federal case, to the Pentagon confirming a leak that may have endangered U.S. troops. We're moving through Minnesota as ICE launches targeted strike teams, and to the Caribbean, where a Colombian family says the U.S. killed an innocent fisherman, and back home where Kristi Noem's self-deported program is collapsing under its own myth-making. We'll break down the story of a 6-year-old boy taken from his father inside ICE custody, the administration's attempt to weaponize hunger, the White House's meltdown at Sabrina Carpenter, Trump pardoning a Democrat facing corruption charges, Pete Hegseth roasting Stephen Miller into oblivion, a bipartisan revolt against stock trading in Congress, and the newest, most disturbing images from Epstein Island. This is In the Know, unredacted. Let's get into it. Los Angeles County is starting us off today with a fight over something you would think doesn't need debate in a democracy: whether law enforcement officers should be allowed to hide their faces in public while detaining people. After months of masked ICE agents jumping out of unmarked vans and grabbing people from sidewalks, car washes, bus stops, and Home Depot parking lots, all while refusing to identify themselves, the Board of Supervisors voted to ban the practice in unincorporated parts of the country. Supporters say this is about transparency. If you carry the power of the state, the public deserves to know who you are. Critics argue the country is picking a symbolic fight it knows it will lose, because its own lawyers admit ICE probably won't need to comply at all. Federal law almost always preempts local rules, and the Trump administration is preparing to contest it immediately. But for leaders like Janice Hahn, symbolism matters, because masked, unnamed agents roaming neighborhoods is the kind of thing Americans claim separates them from authoritarian regimes. Yet here we are, arguing about whether we deserve to see the people arresting us. And while that's a battle over democratic norms, the next story shows what happens when one individual abandons common sense entirely. Down in New Orleans, a 35-year-old man faced a simple problem. He couldn't pay for airport parking. Most people would call a friend or walk to the ATM. According to prosecutors, this man picked up his phone, called the airport operator, and threatened to bomb unless someone named Hassan was paged. Less than an hour later, he allegedly called back, now disguising his voice, demanding that the bomb be brought to level 3. Deputies traced the calls back to the parking lot where he was still sitting inside the car. When they dialed the number back for confirmation, his phone rang right in front of them. He now faces up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. The bill for parking did not go away, but his freedom might. And while that's a case of personal recklessness, the next one involves recklessness at the highest level of government, where the consequences can be far deadlier. The Pentagon's Inspector General just confirmed that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared classified strike details in a Signal group chat with not just national security officials, but his wife. These weren't hints or suggestions. This was operational intelligence, the exact timing, targets, and weapons systems involved in a U.S. airstrike on Yemen. CENTCOM had already classified the information when Hegseth sent it. If these details leaked, U.S. pilots could have been ambushed. When investigators asked for his phone, he refused. When they asked for an interview, he refused that too, arguing he can classify and declassify anything he wants. The IG rejected that outright. The White House is trying to treat this as a minor lapse. Members of Congress, including Republicans, are calling it outright dangerous, and it raises a grim question. If this is what Hegseth is doing in a group chat, what is he doing out of view? And while Washington tries to clean up that mess, the next escalation is happening hundreds of miles away, and it's hitting one community harder than any other. Minnesota is officially the newest battleground in Trump's immigration crackdown. According to the New York Times, ICE strike teams have been deployed in Minneapolis and St. Paul, specifically targeting Somali immigrants just days after Trump publicly clashed with Governor Tim Walz. Trump accused Somali communities of taking over the state. His administration is using Minnesota's massive pandemic fraud scandal, more than $1 billion stolen, with some Somali defendants involved, as justification for sweeping raids. 86 individuals were charged, 59 convicted. But critics say the administration is taking isolated criminal cases and using them to justify broad enforcement against an entire community. DHS insists that operations are strictly about immigration status, but timing, rhetoric, and the president's own statements paint a completely different picture. Trump also vowed to revoke temporary protected status for roughly 700 Somali nationals, instantly making them deportable. And as ICE ramps up operations here at home, another story abroad is turning into an international human crisis. A Colombian family is accusing the United States of killing their loved one, a 43-year-old fisherman named Alejandro Carranza. According to a complaint filed with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, Carranza was not a trafficker, not a smuggler, not affiliated with cartels. They say he was out fishing on September 15th when a U.S. aircraft bombed his boat. Colombia's president, Gustavo Petro, is backing this family. He says the boat was stranded, signaling distress, and had no connection to drug trafficking. The family argues that was a direct result of Trump and Hegseth's aggressive strike campaign, the same campaign where Hegseth allegedly gave a kill everyone directive for suspected trafficking vessels. This isn't the only questionable strike. Multiple U.S. officials confirmed that in the earlier September 2nd strike, now under congressional investigation, survivors of the first explosion were killed in a follow-up strike. Legal experts call that a textbook war crime. The Pentagon refuses to comment. Congress is digging deeper, and the family says plainly their loved one wasn't a threat. He was a fisherman killed by an American missile. Back home, another policy is collapsing. Not violently, but spectacularly. Kristi Noem's heavily advertised self-deportation app is falling apart. DHS data shows CBT home program is costing about $7,500 per person who uses it, because almost nobody actually does. Only 35,000 people have used the app in 9 months. That means 98% of departures happen without the incentives of the app. This is after a $200 million ad blitz filled with slick videos, press conferences, and the ICE Barbie persona that Noem leaned into all year. Critics say the PR campaign succeeded far more than the policy. DHS is now trying to revise the numbers, insisting the real cost is closer to $3,500. Analysts say that math is cooked. Senators are also demanding an investigation into whether DHS misused emergency contracting rules after it came out that one subcontractor on the massive ad campaign is run by the husband of DHS's top communications official. So yes, the app is expensive, but the scandal behind it might cost even more. But cost isn't the only thing driving outrage. In New York, a 6-year-old boy is missing, taken by ICE after a routine check-in. According to advocates, a father brought his son to ICE headquarters in Manhattan for a standard appointment. As soon as they walked in, agents separated them. The father was transported to a detention facility upstate. ICE refused to say exactly where the child is. DHS claims the father became disruptive. Advocates say that's not true, pointing out the two had been granted parole, their immigration case was closed, and the child was enrolled in first grade in Queens. This isn't isolated. Newly obtained data shows ICE has arrested 151 children this year, with a sharp surge starting in May. Entire families are going into check-ins and not leaving together. The father remains in custody, and he still doesn't know where his 6-year-old son is, or who is caring for him. And while ICE refuses to provide answers, the administration is taking aim at something else entirely: America's food assistance system. The Trump administration is threatening to cut off SNAP benefits unless states hand over private data they aren't legally required to provide. Officials are framing it as a fight against fraud. But the USDA's own data shows SNAP has one of the lowest fraud rates in any federal program. Democrats accuse the administration of weaponizing food security. New York Governor Kathy Hochul asked the obvious question: why is the federal government so intent on making it harder for people to eat? 42 million Americans rely on SNAP every month. Most are children, seniors, and people with disabilities. And the administration is threatening to squeeze their benefits unless states comply with demands the law doesn't support. And while they're fighting hunger advocates, they've opened a new, unnecessary front with one of the biggest pop stars on the planet. After Sabrina Carpenter called out the White House for using her song Juno in an ICE arrest video, a clip that tried to turn detention into a sexual punchline, the administration lashed out. A spokesperson mocked her publicly, saying they won't apologize for deporting dangerous criminal illegal murderers, rapists, and pedophiles, and then used a line from her own album to insult her, asking whether she was stupid or is it slow. All Sabrina said was, "Do not use my music to push inhumane policies." That fits a pattern. Olivia Rodrigo, Beyonce, Linkin Park, the Rolling Stones. The administration keeps using artists' work without permission, and then attacking them when they object. Instead of quietly backing down, they chose to pick a very public fight with a Grammy winner, and if that's the hill they want to die on, it says more about them than her. But nothing tonight tops the irony of what happened next, because while the White House was fighting a pop star, Trump was pardoning a Democrat. Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar, a conservative Democrat who often sided with Trump on immigration, was indicted on 14 federal charges. Prosecutors say he laundered nearly $600,000 through shell companies using money from an oil company and a Mexican bank. 2 charges were dismissed, but the case was still very much alive. A full federal trial was scheduled. Then Trump erased the whole thing. He claimed Cuellar was targeted for criticizing Biden's immigration policies. Cuellar's daughter sent Trump a letter asking for help, and with one signature, a massive bribery and money laundering case vanished. This wasn't about innocence, it was about usefulness. Trump has now made it clear loyalty, even from the other party, is enough to wipe away years of criminal allegations. But the wildest personal moment comes from Trump's own inner circle, and it wasn't meant to be news. It came from Pete Hegseth on Katie Miller's podcast. In full seriousness, he said he wouldn't trust Stephen Miller, architect of family separation, travel bans, detention expansions, to babysit his kids. Honestly, same. I wouldn't trust Stephen Miller to babysit a fern. He looks like if a jar of SPF 100 lotion came to life and whispered, "Papers, please." He radiates the exact same energy of someone who irons his shoelaces and hisses when the microwave beeps. Pete Hegseth, the man who once threw an axe on live TV and hit a drummer, is talking about child safety? Pete, you shared your war plans in a Signal chat. Your parenting credentials aren't exactly rock solid. Meanwhile, Stephen Miller looks like the emergency contact Lucifer lists when he wants to fill out paperwork. And now we have 2 of the least warm men in America arguing who's more trustworthy around children. If it weren't terrifying, it would actually be comedy. Actually, it's both. And while they fight over babysitting, members of Congress are revolting over something that really matters: their own stock portfolios. Republican Anna Paula Luna filed a discharge petition, a rarely used tool to force a vote leadership is blocking, to ban members of Congress from trading stocks, and lawmakers from the far right to progressive left lined up to sign it. AOC, Tim Burchett, people who don't agree on what month it is agree on this. They're tired of leadership burying bills that would prevent lawmakers from beating the market 10 times in a row while shaping the rules everyone else follows. If the petition reaches the signature threshold, Speaker Mike Johnson will be required to schedule a vote. No more hiding it. Even if the Senate stalls, this moment shows something important. Congress is tired of being run as an extension of Trump's political interests, and they are pushing back. And that brings us to our final story, one the administration has tried to bury for years. House Democrats released 14 never-before-seen photos and videos from Jeffrey Epstein's private island. Empty courtyards, guest rooms, a bizarre chair resembling a dentist chair surrounded by tribal-style masks, a landline phone with first names scribbled next to the speed dial buttons, Darren, Rich, Mike, Patrick, and Larry, a chalkboard covered in words like power, deception, and political. Democrats say this is just the beginning. They have bank records from JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank they plan to release next. A new law signed by Trump requires the Justice Department to release additional Epstein files by mid-December, but Democrats say the administration is dragging its feet. What we're seeing now isn't closure. It's the opening crack in a wall that's been sealed for so long. That's today's full rundown, the stories that matter, the stories shaping tomorrow, and the stories most people will never hear in one place. If this helped cut through the noise, make sure you follow, subscribe, and turn on alerts so you'll never miss a briefing. I'll be back with the next episode of In the Know Unredacted. See you soon.